I'm Chris Williams from Cyclone Fanatic, and a proud Iowa State graduate from the class of 2007. No one shows up like Iowa State fans. And Cyclones support Cyclones on and off the field. Your gift can provide scholarships to students, fund groundbreaking research. We could even drum up opportunities for the marching band. Visit MoveWhatMatters.com to learn how you can make an impact today.
Cyclone Nation, what better way to kick off the 2025 college football season than cheering on your Cyclones in the Aer Lingus College Football Classic in Dublin, Ireland? Whether it's a quick trip to Dublin for the game, a multi-city adventure throughout the Irish countryside, or premium game day hospitality, there is a package for you. Visit cyclones2ireland.com for information on official travel and hospitality packages. That's Cyclones, the number 2, Ireland.com.
Welcome in to another Victory Monday. This is Kickin' It. I'm Jeff Woody, here with Grant Mahoney. Can you stop? Just leave it. Aiden Wyatt is behind the boards. Grant Mahoney is fiddling with a microphone. It's like putting a squirrel in a room just full of tennis balls. It's not even something they just really need.
Good reason, though.
We're, as always, brought to you by Kelderman Manufacturing, kelderman.com. You need anything that you need. For those apparently mentioned, we're doing an interview later in the show. Iowa Pork Producers Association are going to be bringing in, we're bringing them in on behalf of the Iowa Pork Producers Association. They're bringing in Nate Schuster. What?
I made some pork last night.
You did?
Yeah, delicious.
What kind? How? Prepare.
So I found this recipe online. My wife found it online. Breaded and shallow fried.
Okay.
So I just pounded out the pork. Wasn't thin enough, so I cut it in half.
Talking tenderloin? Just
Yep. Cut it in half, so then it was thin enough. Breaded and egg wash, but not just any old egg wash. The recipe called for 4 raw garlics, like diced up.
Okay.
Put it in there, mix it around, let it kind of marinate in the egg wash.
Yep. An egg wash.
So then you go flour, egg wash, and then homemade breadcrumbs. So we had sourdough, and then just like a bunch of parsley and a little bit of rosemary. Blend that up in the food processor. Dunk in there. You got to really pat it down, and then you just shallow fried it in a little olive oil. Really good.
Sounds great.
It was really good.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you to Kelderman Manufacturing and Iowa Pork Producers Association. Iowa State wins 85-84 in just a classic thriller.
Oh man, great game.
We experienced it in very different ways though. So we have a group chat, and it's usually fairly lively on game days, more so in football because everyone's kind of like, there's nothing else going on a Saturday for a football game. Usually it's during that. Basketball, there's more stuff going on. This one was on a Saturday, but I was up at the gym. I had to maintenance day, do some stuff, replace some stuff. So I was watching that entire game on a replay. And at some point in there, and normally if that's going to be the case, so I don't get any spoilers because you guys don't know that I'm necessarily doing it on a replay, I'll just like mute the conversation. So then there's no spoiler, but I forgot to mute the conversation. And I'm going to read these texts because if you're not watching the game and you're watching it on a replay, the texts are free throws are killing us, followed by UNGHHH mommy, spelled MOMMYYYYYYY. Now, I didn't know necessarily what mommy was meant
Not
to
quite
be, but it could be a good thing, like, but it also could be like, ugh, like it could be a groan. And I didn't know what that was. So at some point in the game, going into it, I knew that Momchilovich was going to do something, but I didn't know what that was.
Or it could have been taken like this. A nader! And that is how I meant it.
We were playing with that before recording. It doesn't get any.
Turns out
better.
It's just as funny.
That's at half speed.
You know what? Speed it up.
All right.
Let's see where this thing goes.
We'll go one more faster just because you know what? It's fun. It's fun no matter how you do it. A
And that one, he just got kicked in the shin. That's all that was. That was.
So I text you when we talk about it with Nate. Yeah. So there was movement in my pants. It was when Brant blocked the layup from Toppin. Mommy got the rebound, dribbled past half court, gave it to Kishan, and then Kishan gave it back to Mommy to knock down a three. That's when I texted you.
Said,
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was. So I didn't take that as, I took that as,
Well,
So I'm watching the game, very disappointed. It would have been so much better in my head had I gotten that at any speed. It doesn't matter. I think my favorite is the sped up version. I think it's better at double speed because it just sounds annoyed. Like it's not impressed.
still very breathy at the end though. Like that last note, it's just like, wow.
Can we get one more? Let's just slow down.
He's very relieved. You want to slow down or sped up?
Slowed, extra slow, like half speed. Let's just see, because just listen to the at the very end, just the breathiness of it. It's like Celine Dion. Wait for it.
Oh God, the end of it is
Oh my God.
good game though.
That was
really
that
great
was a
game.
fun game. So the other bit of it, not near as funny, was as I was finishing up, because it wasn't the entire game. Like I started the game, and you're like on YouTube TV, when you go to like play something and it's live, like the little red bar is sort of, it's not all the way to the end, whereas sort of like, I don't know, 20% shy of having been completed, which I think they allot enough time plus maybe 15 minutes. So ballpark, real time, it was probably midway through the second half when I was just starting it. So by the time I get to the second half and fast forward through halftime and commercials and whatever, it's probably only an hour maybe behind it. So I get the notification, and at that point I had muted all my texts just because other friends were texting me about the game or whatever, and I just muted all the texts. But then I get a podcast notification. It was Iowa State's post game, and it was Iowa State wins thriller against Texas Tech.
Oh, shoot.
There was 2 minutes left in regulation. And it wasn't even necessarily, when I was watching it, it wasn't even necessarily that bad, because it was sort of like, oh, this is fun. How did we pull this one out? Because I knew the outcome now with like 2 minutes left, where it's sort of like, if someone, it's not possible. Like imagine if you're at Hilton and there's like an angel comes up on your shoulder and goes like, we're going to win this game by 4 points. And then you just go, how is that going to happen? And you're just looking for the mystery of how that was. So I was watching the entirety of overtime, knowing that Iowa State wins, and the last 2 minutes. And I was like, how the hell is this going to get to overtime? So I knew that Iowa State won, didn't know how. Very fun way to watch it.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, the thing I love about this team is that they are so resilient. Like Texas Tech came out and just punched them in the face. Iowa State had a bad first half. I'm going to say they were bad. They're only down 6. They didn't make a 3. They were down in rebounds, and Texas Tech had 26 rebounds, 13 offense, 13 defensive, and that's not good. A lot of turnovers, very non-Keyshawn-esque type game. Like I said, hadn't been to 3 yet, so Jiggy hadn't gotten hot. Milan wasn't really a factor, so weren't shooting good free throws. And so I tweeted out, like, I'm not worried about it, because like Iowa State, not that they couldn't have played much worse, but they weren't playing a very good game. And regression to the mean, they're going to start hitting threes. They're going to start making their free throws. And they did. It
felt to me a lot like Iowa. It wasn't exactly the same, I can see that. But when Iowa State played at Carver, and then when they played at the United Supermarkets Arena, hopped up, on fire atmosphere. And because you have a very small number in front of your name, in this case, right now, Iowa State 2, at that game 3, you're going to get the best of everyone's best shot. And the environment's going to be high. The energy is going to be high. Defense is going to be a lot more intense, because I don't know this exactly, but it feels like defense in basketball is a lot like special teams in football, where it's like 85% effort and 15% technique. And defensively, if you're all hopped up and there's in front of a crowd, whether or not you're hitting shots, you're aggressive on defense. And you just have to deal with that. And they did, and they took the best shot from whatever team it was. Against Iowa, they had to figure out how to slow down that offense and then just quit turning the ball over. Like that was sort of eventually, then you can start counterpunch. Against Tech, they got guys in foul trouble and then started if the Iowa game was getting back to running the ball in football, the Texas Tech game was running the ball at number 74, the defensive tackle. And they're going to find the one matchup that they have.
That's an odd number for a D tackle.
It's a weird number. He played offense and he switched over to defense.
Yeah,
It was mid-season. They didn't have a chance to change the number.
That makes sense.
And all the zipper numbers where like number 99 is reporting as number 4. They're all mediums. He can't fit into them. So anyway, so this good guy came from Southern Missouri.
It's just a farm boy, yeah.
He's a farm kid. Anyway, it feels like you're running specifically at one person. So that they attacked which I don't remember the guard that they got in foul trouble with like 14 minutes to go in the second half.
He was good, man.
And
Hawkins.
number 15.
Hawkins, JT Toppin.
And Williams, I think, is the other one, number 5 or number 15. The other
Darren Williams is number 5, yeah.
Yeah, so those guys were the ones they were trying to force into foul trouble, and then that forced Texas Tech to be more passive, which then opened the offense up, which opened everything else up. So like they responded differently, but the feeling of it to me felt a lot like Iowa.
Yeah, no, and thinking of that too, obviously Carver, it's usually a Morgan there, but with an in-state rival, it's going to be hopping. Colorado, tough place to play. I think Colorado had won like 25 of the last 26 home games, so tough place to play and win, and Iowa State won at both. And then you go to Texas Tech, which is a really good place to play too. So just a really impressive resume so far by Iowa State. And I think that game may be the best game of the year when it's all said and done. We look back at it, but then you think, I'm not trying to get too far ahead. We obviously Iowa State hosts Kansas on a Wednesday, but then they go to West Virginia, which is another tough place to play. So I think this team, they're battle tested. I'm not really counting Maui and that's just a neutral site, but they're battle tested, and we just see that they are so just resilient, and they don't get too worried when they're down. And they're just very cool, calm, and collected. And they just know, okay, we just got to stick to our guns. And yeah, they remind me a lot of the football team, and that, when Iowa State football team was down a touchdown or needed a score in the last 2 minutes, I had every faith. I had all the faith in the world that Rocco was going to lead us down. I have all the faith in the world in this team. If we are within 4 with, a minute and a half, I'd say a minute, maybe it's pushing it, a minute and a half left, I've got all the faith in the world that they're going to come back. They're going to figure out they're going to win. Yeah,
it feels like to me this, both kind of, you mentioned the cool, calm, and collected, which I'm going to take a slight sidestep. That phrase, just cool, calm, and collected, it makes sense when you think about it. Have you ever thought about when everyone says each and every day, why you have to say each and every? Why can't you say every day? Or each day? Why is it always each and every day?
It's emphasis. You're emphasizing it.
But like
instead of saying every single every day, singly every.
I was just like when I don't know why I like picked that out. And now if you just hear each and every day, each and every post game interview, someone says all the work we put in each and every day, or something to the effect of each and every day. But I don't know why it has to be each and every, because doesn't every also imply that
each is in there,
whatever possible day you could be choosing every day. It's the day. Yeah. And then each day is like a specific one in that set, but it's still, each is included in every.
I think you've gone off the rails a little bit here.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's just a cool, calm, and collected. I get it. That one makes sense. Your demeanor, you're calm. You kept your emotions in check. Cool, where you're not hot-headed, not flying off the head. Cool, calm, and collected. It's different attributes about it, but each and every, that one I just have, it's a redundancy.
Don't know where that came from.
Anyway, is there a team in the country that you would be more surprised if they ever got a technical foul
than
Iowa State?
No, but I think a big thing, and that starts with TJ. He's
right, and Taman.
I mean, TJ. You look at the staff, and TJ, he'll get fired up, but he's not gonna.
TJ's fired up when he puts his hands behind his back. Yeah, that's when TJ is just mad. Where he'll like, I imagine if you'd put like a little grip strength thing on whatever, if there's like an overhand, underhand thing on the overhand that's squeezing the other hand, the grip strength on TJ's mad. Like when he gets a block charge that he thinks is a really bad call, he's never going to like out and, scream at somebody or whatever. He's just going to put his hands behind his back and just freaking squeeze the shit out of one of his wrists. I imagine the grip strength on that has to be off the charts.
Yeah. I mean, he works out. I mean, he's got, he wears medium shirts. He works out, so he's probably got good grip strength. But it starts with TJ, and you see everyone on the staff. They're all cool, calm, and collected. So is Taman.
Each and every one of them.
So I had seen in the off season that one thing that TJ had to implement with Noya, so I think is the only freshman that came in, but then also the transfers, he was letting them know, like, if there's a bad call, okay, nothing you can do about it. Bitching at the ref's not going to change it. That's only going to upset them. And you see that with the team. There were a lot of bad calls both ways for Iowa State and Texas Tech this game. And there was one, I remember, like Deshaun Jackson got hammered. Didn't call a foul, and he very could have yelled at the ref or done something, but it wouldn't have changed anything. Mm-hmm. And so I think that starts from TJ. And like, if you're worried more about the missed call, then okay, whatever just happened, I got to get back on defense, or I got my next assignment. Then you're off your game. And so that's one thing I love about this team is that the mantra TJ has instilled is just stay cool, just stay calm, stay collected each and every possession. And
irregardless of what happens.
Yeah. And I mean, you see it
I could
down.
care less about what happens.
You see it trickle down. I mean, they don't allow themselves to get low, but they will get high. And I think there's a lot of makeup for, a championship level program for this team.
I just had Towley's voice was in my head.
Who?
Towley from South Park. You said they will allow themselves to get high.
You want to get high?
You want to get high?
You're a towel.
I'm so high. That's it. I found it.
Yeah, Christmas special.
You remember the code? No, it's the theme to Funky Town. Oh boy,
They need more new South Parks.
I think they're still coming out with them.
Yeah, they still do seasons, and they have a deal with Paramount where they're guaranteed, like, it was a crazy number of specials.
Oh, I got that back into them.
Yeah,
sure
so they had a couple on COVID that were really fun.
Yeah, I've seen like the Christmas
the
Christmas special. I saw that one.
Yeah. So it's like stuff like that. They have a contract with Paramount that's huge.
I want new
Great show.
episodes.
No, I was with the technical thing. It reminded me there was that thought popped in my head was there was one where it was an appropriate call, but Keyshawn got called for a travel, and his foot, barely moved. It is appropriate. It's not a travel in the NBA. Nothing's ever a travel in the NBA, which is a whole nother thing. But usually in that situation, you get called for a travel that he probably didn't even feel his foot move. Like, my guess is he was focused on the basket, whatever. His foot moves. And he just goes and like doesn't even roll his eyes. He just kind of goes, you could see on his facial expression, his facial expression said, I don't agree with that call, but whatever. Like, that was more or less what his face said. Yeah. And you were mentioning and we probably talked about this on the show already at some point in one of the other episodes that we did. I've never, ever understood screaming at a referee. Ever. Like, especially if you're a player. Like, what do you think that interaction is going to go like? How was it holding? Oh, you know what? You're right. My bad. Hey, Bill, cancel that. Not a holding call. This one, it wasn't a holding call. He said he wasn't, and he's right. I've reconsidered my thoughts, and we're changing the call.
I think the only thing is like an intimidation factor of if another questionable-ish call comes up, the ref might double, might second guess himself because I don't want to be MF'd again by.
If I was a referee, it would go the other way, where like it's sort of where if you start screaming, like, and I think they give coaches a lot of leeway. And actually, this is just referees generally. I feel like I think universally feel like referees get a really bad rap in that most of the time people look at them like villains and they're, just you're causing bad calls or you're hurting our team or whatever. No one's actively trying to do that.
Well, they're only noticed when they call it a bad game.
When it's a really good game and very well officiated, no one pays attention to him. And it reminded me of the Bills game this weekend. There was the footage of the head referee coming over to Josh Allen on the bench during a TV timeout. And in the press conference afterwards, someone asked Josh Allen what that was. And he basically told me, he said, he was telling me to quit complaining about calls. And that happens all the time. Usually the official's not going to come over to the bench and do that, but you're Josh Allen. And the official knows that every camera in the stadium is pointed at number 17. You can't discreetly on the field talk to Josh Allen about anything. So you have to do it during a TV timeout when you're on the sideline and maybe it's a cutaway. He's probably not thinking about a camera at that point. But like most officials, I imagine this is true in basketball, are going to not necessarily give you a warning before every single foul, but they're going to talk to you about like, hey, tone it down. Like, I understand it was a bad call, but give it a rest. What I feel like, especially with coaches like brain fart, the coach at Houston, Kelvin Sampson.
Yeah.
He chews on the referees all game.
Yep.
That would be a thing where if I'm an official, it's hard to do my job. It's harder to do my job if someone's screaming at me the entire time. So that would be something where, like, unless if you know him personally, just be like, hey, Kelvin, I understand you're trying to fire your team up, but this is a super loud environment. I can't have you chirping at me that much. I'm telling you, I'm giving you one warning, and after that, it's going to be a technical. Like I feel like that's the way it would normally be. And I was just thinking about how Iowa State responds to officials. That's got to be such a breath of fresh air to the officials that you call block charge. It's not going to try and influence like consciously your decision of like, oh, I think Iowa State's going to get away with this. But just to be able to do your job stress-free, knowing that you're not going to get your eyes rolled by an athlete or yelled at by an athlete or a coach is going to scream in your ear, it's got to be such a breath of fresh air to officiate this team.
Well, I think too that they show so much respect for the refs. I think that'll carry forward in their lives of being just respectful guys off the court and in civilization. You'll see too, like if you go to a game, I don't think they'll show it on TV, but if you go to a game, Iowa State, like when they introduce Taman, he'll go through the line of the guys and he'll do a fist bump, whatever, with whoever's at the end of the, JT Rocker, whoever is, before he sends them off to midcourt. And he'll go and he'll fist bump everyone at the table, everyone at the scoring table, and then he'll go and fist bump every ref. So like, it's just, I think that goes a long way because a ref is, if you're consistently MFing a ref, they're not going to want to give you a call if it is a questionable call. But I think if you're respectful toward this, is just maybe I have no truth behind this. This is how I would think. If I was a ref and they're being respectful towards me, I would want to like, thank you for being respectful. Like, yes, if this is a questionable call, if it's not going to be reviewed, we can go back and review it if we need to. It's your ball. Whatever.
I think for me, it feels like with an official in that situation, I would always introduce myself to the umpire and then the back judges, the two that are behind the quarterback and the running back, and the umpire, which is right where the linebackers are in NCAA. The NCAA, at least when I was playing, they might have moved back a little bit. I think they're still there. Anyway, I would always introduce myself to that point because if you open up a dialogue with them, then they can tell you what they're seeing. So like, granted, on football field, when you're rotating in and out, there's not a lot of them, but during TV timeouts, if you're going up and saying like, hey man, like I've gotten my face mask pulled like 3 times. If you just come up and you don't introduce yourself, they have no idea who you are. They don't know if you're just bitching about everything. They put a little bit more credence on that than if you've opened, say, hey, thank you for coming, appreciate it or whatever. That like making a good impression with them doesn't necessarily mean that in that 50-50 call, you're going to get it. But in a moment where it's sort of gray, it's not a foul, it's not a foul, they're going to talk to you because they know that you're receptive to a conversation, is at least my experience with officials.
I had a lot of talks with refs, like, because before I start a game, obviously they hand me the ball. And if it's coming out of like a TV timeout, if we just scored,
and there's 25 extra seconds.
Yeah, we're sitting there talking to them, but I would let them know like, hey, like we're doing a surprise onside here, just so you know. Like I'm
going to kick it right to number 5.
Yeah.
Right over there.
Yeah. So just so you are, we are doing an onside kick here.
I'd
also ask him too, like, hey, where are you from?
Yeah.
What are games you done?
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, treat them like people. And if you're a fan, treat them like people too. Like, don't be a dick. I
remember my freshman year, I had one ref ask me like, oh, what are you doing here? I'm like, well, I'm kicking off. Okay. Yeah, but like, what are you, okay, like, what are you doing though? I'm going to try to lay the guy out. What? Well, first I'm going to try to get a touchback, but then we're going to try to lay the guy out. He's like, oh, I just meant like, are you going to, like, you're kicking it deep then? Well, yeah.
You never know with roads.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily like an intentional segue, but we're talking about just like with officials making a good impression. I've been asked this question so many times in person, or just like the conversation has been brought up. And I asked Aiden ahead of time, just if the forums or anything like that, like, why are you guys not talking about Campbell? There's nothing to talk about. Like the reason
I heard the Bears offered him a job,
and there is $700 million a year.
He's gone.
He's gone. Yep. And every player is actually going to go play for the Bears now.
I heard Rockoback just transferred to West Virginia.
Yep. There's the whole thing. It's gone. And burn everything down.
Yeah. No, yep. It's a non-story. I think, and we talked about this too. And if you want to talk about this on more, you can. If he does interview with the Bears, one, I don't think Campbell wants to coach right now in the NFL. It's making good connections. And like you'd mentioned, if, when the Bears are on the clock, if they have a good connection with Campbell and they trust him because he's interviewed with them or he has a deeper relationship with them, they may be more likely to take Ben Bramer than a tight end from Colorado.
Yeah. And it's such a weird thing. Like, it's such a weird job.
Why not make connections though?
Exactly. It's such a weird job that like, there's 32 of that job ever. There's 32 NFL head coaches. It's the only thing. There's 32 GMs. And if you want to ever in your life maybe be one of them,
Yeah.
would it not be a good practice to just interview, see how the process is, and then, like you were saying, build a relationship in there? Like, let's say with the Bears, and I think, Aiden, you were saying the Bears didn't actually confirm that. It was a report on somebody's side, but somebody...
It's technically still a rumor just because the Bears haven't officially said anything, but whatever you want to do with that information.
So let's say that he does interview with the Bears. One, he just signed an extension, so there's going to be a buyout. That'd be crazy that the Bears would have to pay. Two, his roster right now in Ames is really good. Three, the Bears are going to back up the Brinks truck to Ben Johnson, but they can't talk to him now because he's still in the playoffs. So realistically, he's not their guy. And
Campbell is still he's on the recruiting trail. Like, there are pictures of him actively recruiting guys, which he would probably do normally anyways, but...
Right. But let's say that, again, at some point down the road, you might feel like if you're a successful coach, you might maybe in your lifetime want to be an NFL coach. What's the best way to practice, considering there are 32 of those jobs on planet Earth, to practice interviewing for when you eventually do maybe want that job?
Do some interviews.
Do some interviews. There you go. And like you were saying, is if you could make a good relationship, let's say you go through this process. Ryan Poles knows he's probably not going to hire you. You probably know you're not going to get hired, but you make a really strong impression with Ryan Poles. Then that's when you talk about that Ben Bramer thing, where let's say next year and it's the third round and the Bears need a tight end and Ben Bramer is still available. And yeah, that like guy from Colorado, because everything's super fast, Ryan Poles texts Matt Campbell because he has a really high impression of him from the interview process and goes, what do you think about the Bramer kid? Yes, go for it. Takes his word for it. Now it's better for, I mean, there's no downside to this.
Yeah.
So this is one of those things, like, why have we not talked about it? Because it's not a story. Like, it's a good thing all around that your coach has wanted, that he's interviewing for NFL jobs. It's good for Campbell. It's good for Iowa State. So this is one of those, like, don't be nervous or scared about it. Also, one other thing, congrats to Kyle Kempt. That's the feeling.
Perfectly timed.
Kyle Kempt is now the offensive coordinator at Drake, which good for him. Good opportunity, kind of be outside the shadow of offense. I can't even look at you.
I timed that perfectly.
That is, you're a dingus.
Well, sometimes you gotta be a dingus, you know.
You know who's not a dingus? This Nate Schuster. No, he's very much a dingus.
Ah, major dingus.
Super dingus. But the Aer Lingus College Football Classic is going to be the next football match that Iowa State's going to be playing.
Wait, time out. What color is the face mask for Iowa State in this?
Is that black?
Looks like it's black.
Like a
Look at the
purple.
front of it.
For those that are audio only, there's the
cardinal.
actually
there's like a
Aer
shade
Lingus
of
College
cardinal.
Football Classic. It made it as like a reflection. Maybe they put it in front of a Kansas State jersey so that it's like a guard that's just lighting
Those
up
aren't
the
our
Kansas
colors.
State. What?
That's not a black helmet.
I get it. It's a joke. You make a joke.
You and I wore black their last game. What the hell are they doing wearing black? That's not one of their school colors.
Isn't it?
For basketball, no, their colors are purple and gold.
I thought they actually had black as a tertiary.
I don't know.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. But Aer Lingus College Football Class, thank you to them. Thank you to Kelderman. Thank you to Iowa Pork Producers Association. We're going to get to the 3-point percentage record holder at Iowa State, Nate Schuster, talking about more X's and O's of basketball that us two yahoos couldn't discuss. And now we're going to welcome in Nate Schuster. So Nate, we already talked about a little bit about the Texas Tech game to bring you in on this one. When you were watching that game specifically, was there anything that jumped out at you more than or different than the rest of the games this season?
I would say in seasons past, it was interesting to see my internal confidence of this team. We've seen a lot of tough stretches so far, even with the loss to Auburn, like not scoring for 6 minutes and still winning the game. Marquette, something similar. Being down the stretch in the first half, watching Chatfield Jones playing that 2-man game, which I know we're going to talk about more later. I felt good because more often than not, the home team and a ranked team's coming in, they're going to come out with a lot of adrenaline. That first 4 minutes, they're probably going to win. Crowd's going to have a lot of pop. Second half is where you're going to make your money. And they did, and I was never worried about it for 1 second. So that was really nice. But man, it's a deep team, really deep team for once. And that is nice to be 8-9 deep.
Yeah, so this team feels different. And the thing that, so like us two idiots, we can talk about how fun it is to watch them all day. But the things that I was interested in and getting someone who actually played. So all-time all-time 3-point percentage leader at Iowa State, Nate Schuster.
And worst free throw percentage.
I think
ever.
Jiggy's catching up to you though.
He keeps shooting like this. I might just give away that crown.
He's got a butterfly. The old G-Mo Machine Gun Mahoney.
He looks like the
7-Eleven,
Family
man.
Guy, like corner 3. Just cash.
But okay, so now outside the Texas Tech game, because I wanted to get somebody who actually knows basketball more than, again, us two idiots. No offense, Grant.
I want to say championship my junior year. I did not contribute to it, but got a ring.
It was a champ.
We had fun playing JV though.
We talked about this?
Yeah, we did.
Just keep your pants on, or keep everyone else's pants on.
You never know.
So what does this team do? So obviously, like from the outside in, and what you kind of hear about it, and my amateur eye, obviously the biggest difference to me is the bigs, and knowing that like there is offensive threat between Jackson, Chatfield, and Jefferson, and that enables a lot more flexibility with the rest of the guards. But that, and then Jones is more aggressive, I guess, and has more shots than just kind of a post up. But outside of that, like I don't know the ins and outs of why this team is better. So from having more of an in-depth kind of an idea on basketball than we do, what are you seeing that this team does better or differently than previous odds teams that's giving you this level of confidence that, like, you know what, they're down by 7 with 8 minutes to play or whatever it is, they're still going to win this game? Like, what are they doing that's better than what they have done in the past?
Yeah, so I think the team you have to compare this to is last year's team, because most of the roster is the same roster. What did we see last year early in the season? We saw this ESPN Events Invitational of we're a good team, we're not great yet, confidence isn't there, this team's not gelling.
And when you say confidence, you're talking about fan confidence, you're talking about player confidence?
Player confidence, being in spots, taking the right shot at the right time, not being like second guessing those threes like how Taman did a lot last year. The 3 he hit against Tech, second half, daggers, no hesitation, hit it like that. Jones is the same way. You look on Twitter last year, Curtis Jones 2024 tweets, early season, you're like, this guy can't hit the broadside of a barn, and now the rim is 10 feet wide. So I think that's huge for him. I also like what you said with the bigs. We have threats from the perimeter with our bigs. Jefferson's hitting at a subpar clip for right now, but last year he was a 36% three-point shooter. Jackson can make it from 15, 18 feet, whereas last year our bigs really couldn't do much outside the block. Also, the entire team is entirely focused on attacking the rim at all costs. The jump shot is a secondary aspect of the team. And I really like that because Barkley said it best, which is crazy that I'm saying Charles Barkley said the best thing ever, but
Man, that's terrible.
jump shooting teams don't always win. And it's a like live by the 3, die by the 3, right? You got to play inside out. It's always going to be an inside out game. Your straight line downhill drives need to set up your threes. We do a great job of that. That was the Heisey 3 against Marquette, that it was just cans. So that's really the big differences I'm seeing. And the fact that Jefferson has insane footwork.
He's a dog, man. And I've said before that this team has a lot of glue guys. He is the glue. He's the bottle of glue. He's the spine that, I've said he's the best point forward we've had since Royce White. I think he's better than Royce White. Statistically, he may not be, but I think just overall, I think he's better than Royce White.
I think he's a better shooter.
For sure. Oh, for sure. Royce White, he's a below 50% free throw shooter. I want Joshua on the line every time if we can. He is phenomenal. But you talk about the bigs, and I want to ask you about Brant. He does a lot of, and I think a lot of the guys in the team do this, and Otts has mentioned this about Taman before, that he'll do a lot of stuff that doesn't show up in the box score. What have you seen from Chatfield that you're like, man, this guy's got it? First off, before you answer that question, one thing I noticed, he wears a mouth guard.
Oh, love it.
That to me tells me that guy's not afraid to go in there and get his nose broken.
And not like the little thin mouth guard that like Steph Curry wears that he's kind of chewing on.
Like it's a retainer.
That's a football mouth guard. Yeah, I know that's he doesn't wear an Invisalign.
That thing got molded.
Yeah, he doesn't wear an Invisalign. He goes to Shields.
Boiling water.
Boil that thing and suck it into your teeth.
Thumb
man.
roof of the mouth.
I can't tell you what burnt the roof of my mouth worse, pizza that's too quick, or putting mouth guards in high school. I have had
You
so
actually had
many.
to wear mouth guards?
What?
Did you?
I still wear mouth guard when I play basketball, like rec league right now.
I
Yeah, I wore mouth guards.
just want to protect those little pearly whites. I mean, I
Bro, I got in
He
there.
does have great teeth.
Shit.
I got in there. I had 8 tackles in my career. I got in there.
I believe you. So anyway,
Oh yeah. So back to my question. Sorry. So what have you seen from Brant that makes you think, man, this guy's a dog?
So Fran stole a little of this thunder with that Gortat screen. So they're playing.
is that by Marcin Gortat? Like, is that what they call it?
Yeah,
The
so
Gortat
Go-
screen? Did he
so-
do it, or was he the beneficiary of it?
He was doing it. So he was Chatfield in that scenario
Okay.
that they're showing. He did it. He really did it best when he was Wizards, the like 2015 Wall Beal days when they had Nene and they were running 2-man 3 out with Ariza. That fun teams. I hate that I love basketball this much.
You're the right man for the job.
6
You
seed
got
in the East that lost in the first round.
Got a
great team.
Nene and a Trevor Ariza pull so far. We are in the
He's
right
a
ballpark.
Immaculate Grid legend, by the way, if you guys play that.
Nope.
What is it?
Ariza. So you do like the grids. It's like a 3x3 grid, and you got to do like King, Laker, Ariza, like that.
Oh,
works.
yeah, okay.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
but he's played everywhere. But when you're doing that, you're really screening your guy, but you're screening him in the way that it looks like a seal, and yours really the guy setting the screen is your defender that's on your butt.
What do you mean by seal?
Yeah. So you're Chatfield. For those that I think everyone at this point, not everyone, a lot of people at this point kind of understand the play because Frischl is really good at color, really good. But he was the one that kind of pointed out. So Chatfield's under the basket. There's a guard. Usually it's Jones that's playing down towards the rim. What is the scenario that he's trying to accomplish here?
Chatfield's trying to almost deceive his defender that he's trying to post up. Now, what he's going to do is he's going to move his defender further away from the basket and allow Curtis Jones to rub off of his shoulder, effectively also screening his guy if he does it shoulder to shoulder, because what you're going to do is you're going to get the defender hitting your defender, which is hitting you. So it's just
Like
creating
a double screen.
a double screen, but you're not actually screening at all. But it creates a double screen.
And I imagine because there's not, it's not an obvious screen, similar to like in football, like an offensive pass interference, where like you really got to screw up.
That's a great way to put it.
To get an offensive pass interference in football, you really got to be pretty obvious. Like everyone runs pick plays all the time, and I imagine rather than setting a screen out past the 3-point line where you have to be like set, hands within or feet within the shoulders, like it's got to be right because moving screens are really obvious out there. I imagine you have a lot more flexibility because like you could sort of justify like I'm just trying to get block position
Inside the paint, you're talking?
inside the paint. Yeah. So inside the paint when you're in there. So I imagine it's a little freer that it doesn't have to be like set up, hands over nuts or whatever your
you can
screening position
You can
is.
have a forearm under the guy's armpit and just keep moving them, like if you really want to, and you just got to give him one of these hands, like, hey, I'm going for the ball, but you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you got to window dress it a little bit.
Okay.
The one play that I think of that was super impressive from Chatfield was it was like a double screen that
Is this in tech? The tech game?
yeah.
Okay.
That allowed Jiggy to get to the cup and he missed a layup, but then Chatfield was right there to clean it up.
Yep.
That play, if you go back and watch it, was super impressive because he screened.
He did that exact Gortat screen on that, back sealed him, and then Jones threw his worst shot of the night, didn't hit the rim, and it looked like a lob.
The two Chatfield plays that really I think were like game changing plays for me was that one just because of the hustle, and then also the one where he blocked JT Toppin, who looked like National Player of the Year in the first half. He blocked him. He had one where he kind of drove, went past Keyshawn, had a layup, and if you watch that back, Chatfield comes from the 3-point line and sprints basically, stuffs him against the board. Milan gets the ball, dribbles it past half court, dishes it to Keyshawn, takes a couple dribbles, dishes it back to Milan for a 3, and knocks it down to make it 53-55. I think at that point I was like, okay, we got this in the bag. Like that was for me kind of the turning point. But it all got initiated from Chatfield's hustle play.
Yeah, it says a lot about him that you don't lose anything going from your 1 center to your 2 center. Like he plays hard regardless. He closes some games. Like that says a lot more than starting. Like everyone's talking about, Curtis Jones doesn't start. I'm a Bucks fan. Chris Middleton's not starting anymore. I don't care. I want them with the ball under 2. I don't need them getting tired with 18 minutes left in the first half. Who cares if he comes off the bench? He's going to have fresh legs for the first media. Big deal.
Yeah, this is the other thing. So we're talking about Chatfield, but also you got to talk like Jackson. What does he bring different? You mentioned he can hit down a 15-foot shot, and I'm going to follow this up because we're talking about Chatfield and Jackson. You can't also not talk about the best offensive big in the conference, which is Dickinson, which Iowa State's going to see. We're recording this Monday.
He's going to be stuffed in so many lockers. I can't wait for Brant to put that mouthpiece in, look him in the eye and say, bitch, I'm about to stuff you in a locker and steal your girlfriend.
Bob Jones did that last year,
He did.
He did. Bob Jones put him in a locker.
I don't think Bob wore a mouthpiece, though.
Bob Jones doesn't need a mouthpiece.
Brant is a junkyard dog.
But so what does Jackson bring? And then with those two, having 2 5s that both have enough athleticism and physicality that you can keep throwing them at Dickinson, to my dumb brain, that feels like a substantial advantage, even if they weren't good. Like if they're physical and athletic on the defensive end, to be able to throw at him when Kansas is on offense, but then when you flip it, when you have offensive threats, he has to now guard. So what does Jackson bring different than Chatfield? And then how does that affect really what Iowa State's going to see on Wednesday against Dickinson?
Yeah, so I think with Chatfield, you're going to get more of, comparing old NBA bigs here, you're going to get more of an Aaron Baines. He's going to be junkyard.
Man, I know my NBA guys. I don't know who Aaron Baines is.
Oh, legendary. Yeah. You don't know Aaron Baines fan club?
No, I don't.
No, I don't.
Okay, so
you're talking 2 white guys from Iowa, bud.
So he's an Australian big, played for the Spurs and Celtics, like the Isaiah Thomas Celtics. All he did was hit. He just hit people hard, offensive rebounds, had a little bit of a mid-range game.
So a little Steven Adams? Is that a reasonable bit?
Steven Adams with a little bit of a jumper.
Okay, got it.
A little bit of a jumper, smaller. That's who Chatfield is. I'm going to get in your way. I'm going to be team all day. Jackson's got this motor with him where he's going to set screens hard and he's going to roll harder. And if I'm Dickinson, dude, you better get on the treadmill yesterday, because I watch him. He's never in a stance. And quite honestly, Self's been closing games with Badunga because he gives you something defensively above the rim. Dickinson's not blocking shots. So I think what you're doing with Jackson is you're going to send him and Gilbert and Jones in as many ball screens as possible. We're going to attack Dickinson. We're going to make this a track meet, and you can't really score on us.
I think too that Dickinson he's kind of a hothead. If you get in his head and things aren't going for him, he has lost his temper a few times. This year he got booted.
He kicked a guy.
Yeah, he kicked a guy. So he got booted. Like he's got a little psycho in him. So I think having two bigs to really beat him up and to really go after him all game and just to really make it a physical game the entire game, I think will wear on him.
Because I haven't looked at Kansas too much. Who's their 4? Because is it still?
It's still KJ.
It's still KJ Adams. He's really. I mean, I feel
he
like
doesn't help them when Dickinson's year 5, because Dickinson needs space to work on the low block. KJ Adams is a guy that you double off of. So that's the guy you double off of to
because he's not an offensive threat.
And we can't shoot.
He's the
great NFL tight end if he would.
Yeah, he's
freak athlete, huge.
He would be. He'd be pass rush god. Imagine him swatting passes at the line.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not a guy that's he's kind of got a mid range jumper now.
And who do they substitute in for him if there is anybody?
I mean, they probably go small with Storr off the bench.
Okay. Dude from Wisconsin.
Yeah, but he's people rip Coleman Hawkins, but he's been just as bad. So
I think they paid quite a bit for him too.
$750. So it's
an expensive bench player,
especially for being a number 1 scorer on a Big Ten team. That's you're getting paid to go sit. Smart choice, bud. But
so if there's the 4, because Adams then is going to be against Adams and Jefferson. That's going to be that matchup.
Jefferson Adams, right?
Jefferson Adams.
All right.
Oh my God. Do they have a Washington?
Yeah, well, the third Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. John Adams just some guy who's
don't talk trash about John Adams.
I'm Jefferson all day. KJ Adams overrated.
Well, we're talking about presidents here. Anyway, so with so if they're going to get in just screen action and they're going to roll as much as they possibly can, how do you then defend Dickinson with these 2 bigs that you couldn't do last year, or is it about the same as what Bob Jones was doing last year?
I think it's the same. I think with the added size, because I mean, Bob Jones is running 6'8". Jackson's really like 6'10", 6'11", and probably 20 to 30 more pounds.
As Coach
girth.
Pope would say, man, heavy in ass.
That dude's got girth. Yeah, thick and
Heavy
three
in
C's.
So you move, if he can move Dickinson's post up an extra foot outside the lane, an extra 2 feet outside the lane, make him pound it first and then send the double. That's what I would do. Make him a passer, because if you can cover a Rylan Griffin, a Zeke Mayo, I'm okay with DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams getting catch and shoot looks, because Harris turns them down all the time, and Adams, you want him shooting to begin with. That's what my defense looks like to me.
I need to see some meanness from Jackson. Not that he's like too nice or too soft. I need to see a little meanness. I want to see a little blood, maybe.
From him or somebody else? Either one?
I mean, no one makes him bleed his own blood. So,
Did you see that Texas did the Cobras thing after Texas did in the game against Ohio State? They did that like after Quinn Ewers and a couple from dodgeball, and then they lost.
Yeah,
Just like the Purple Cobras did.
well,
True to the movie.
True to the movie.
I was going to ask you about Jefferson though, because like I said, he's been the most impressive guy. I want to get Jefferson jersey, and I don't own many jerseys. I want to get Jefferson jersey. He has been, for me, the most impressive guy on this roster. He is the X factor on the roster, and I think the offense needs to go through him. Not every time, but as often as possible, because he is such a good facilitator. He's good in the post. He's, like we saw at this game, they drew up a play for him to, get the game tying basket.
Well, he was the second option on that, wasn't he? Like, if really it was an either or, where like Taman is going to go to the rack depending on what the defender does. Is that more or less what you think the option was, or was it to get Jefferson the ball?
I think, and I'll let you answer here, Nate. I think Jefferson was going to the hoop because he was going to get a rebound, and Taman just saw his guy sagged over and fed him.
After that ball was inbounded, play is kind of off. Like
it's just go play.
Kind of just
It's just soccer
go
at
make
that
a play.
point.
Like Jefferson's just doing that. Like that's just something wired in his brain. Like I am going to go to the basket. Lipsy's like, man, we're down 2. We need a 2. I'm going to go straight to the basket. The only play portion that they really ran was the J cuts. That like there was like 2 or 3 J's. And then Lipsy,
and that's where a guard is running back towards the inbounder,
and it makes the shape of a J somewhat. Because you're getting your speed here. You want to catch it at the bottom of the J and accelerate through, and you're gonna push it 1 or 2 times out to get your speed. So your top speed, especially when you're at 6.2. So you got, like Fran would say, you got 6 dribbles and then a shot attempt, because every dribble is about a second.
Oh, and Schmitty's the one that comes up with that.
That one's Schmitty's usually the offense. If it's still true to last year, Crawford drew that play up.
Okay, I don't know who that is.
He's the bald-headed black guy in the staff.
Okay.
Yeah, you know if you saw him.
Okay, and speaking of coaches on the staff, though, what do you think having Deontay Garrett?
Time out.
What?
Oh, I didn't answer my question about Jefferson. I want to ask you about Jefferson quick, and then we'll get to Deontay.
I was moving.
Yeah,
Deontay Garrett's on the staff. That's a thing.
What have you seen from Jefferson so far that you think has made him so impressive and so, in my opinion, the most important player on this team?
So, first thing that stands out to me, old adage is, if you can rebound, you can play. He won the rebounding belt all offseason. That's all they posted about.
Is that new?
They didn't do it when I was there, but I think that's one of their offseason staples. But if you can rebound, you can play. Like
we need a few more rebounds in the first half, but it doesn't matter.
So that's the first thing. Second thing, like you said, if it's end of clock, the ideal play is you got Milan, Taman off ball, and you're running a 3-man game with Jefferson as a screener, Gilbert or Curtis, and the other one's going to be the other guard.
Gilbert Keyshawn.
Yeah.
Gilbert or Curtis. Yeah, you're
Those
right.
are 2 people.
Gilbert or Curtis.
You're right.
Either or is coming off the screen. The other one's going to be the catch and shoot guy off the roll and replace. He is awesome. I have no doubts whatsoever. Like I see him with the low ball in the low post, and he's like, we saw Deshaun do this in Maui, where he kind of lost it with the left hand, still got a dunk out of it. You see that with Jefferson. That ball's not loose at all. He can do whatever he wants. He can spin. He can drop step up and under. He can fade out of it.
Little dipsy doodle.
Yep. Like that's confidence that I think every coach in America would love a player like him. And he's the Trey King replacement from last year. I don't think we could have asked for more than this. I mean, we could get a little better 3-point shooting out of him because he was better at St. Mary's.
May not need it though with this team.
Exactly. Like, that's the other beauty of the whole team is they are truly a team. If Jefferson's not going, if Lipsey's not going, we might get 23 out of Curtis. Maybe we get 15 again as West Virginia from Deshaun and Chatfield each. Like, we have no idea. But like,
You calling your shot right now?
I'll call that we will get one big Chatfield game in Arizona.
Okay, all right.
When you say big, are you talking like 15 plus?
7 offensive rebounds?
Double?
I think 10 and 7. I think 10 and 7 is in a college setting. That's basically double in the NBA.
Okay.
Okay, your question. Go
Well,
for
then I was going to say, you're talking about just having, whether it's Crawford or Schmitty or whatever, what does Deontay Garrett bring to the coaching staff from his recent playing past and the fact that he was a guard with such a guard-heavy team? What does he bring to the roster? Because did you play with him at all, or is he just, you missed him by a couple of years?
I missed him by a few years, but from the same neck of the woods, so good man. But I'm not sure how much he's bringing X's and O's quite yet. But what I would love to see is how much he's bringing on the player development side, what he's bringing in from a player perspective and now a coach, because he's going to see it from both perspectives now. He played illustrious pro career, been around this staff forever. Mm-hmm. So like when TJ's conveying a message to the team and it could be misconceived as like, hey, I don't know what he's really saying there. Garrett's there to say, hey, this is really what he's looking for you to do. Because I know you guys have gotten through like the coach speak and the self-doubt. I think that's huge. Also, he's probably learned things in Europe. Like the stuff from Europe is what really comes here. Like all of the plays, like that Spain action.
I don't know what that is.
It came from Spain. So it's a middle ball screen. You screen the other guy's defender. So it's a double screen. So if I'm setting a Spain screen for Grant, I'm going to screen Grant's guy, and then you're going to screen my guy, and then you're going to roll. You're going to pop, and I'm going to roll. Because I'm going to
screen the screener?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then one pops, one rolls. So one bounces back to the 3-point line, one goes to the basket, and then you're being the one that still has the ball. You get a pick then between the two.
Yep.
Do you think Deontay is getting in there for some scout team stuff and like playing with the guys?
I wouldn't see why not. I mean, you're not going to get better looks out of student managers. Like I'd much rather have my pro guy doing it,
especially because he's a big guard.
Yeah.
Right. Because he's what, 6'4", 6'5"?
Yeah, I think he's like 6'5", 220, like lanky too.
So if you've got length, like I imagine if that's the case where he's able to play, was it Cam Jones or Cam Smith from Marquette? Like the
Cam Jones.
The longer guard. I imagine that he was Cam Jones or could have been Cam Jones in practice for someone like Gilbert to say like, this is what this length is going to feel like when you're trying to drive. Like
I imagine he's probably DeJuan Harris.
He probably will be or could be.
I would say he's probably Zeke Mayo this week. Right. I like him a little bit better from like someone you got to take away.
Sure.
But
which I would say played against him last year. Fun fact.
Yeah. Look good against him.
Jax. One thing that I wouldn't say like necessarily like disappointed with, but when you watch a game, you can't just be like, everything's great, we're the best, and then it's just move on. A thing that I feel like when Iowa State gets to slow down a little bit offensively, the ball gets a little sticky, and it feels like the ball sticks a little bit with Gilbert more than others, I think. And how do you balance, whether it's a coach, teammate, or you're the guy himself, balance the aggressiveness that is necessary to be Keyshawn Gilbert? Is you have to be willing to in Maui, I don't remember which one of the games in Maui it was where he's like, going through an elbow to the chin and is still finishing at the rim. Like that level of aggressiveness, you need the ball to do that. And when that's not going well, you don't know if you can flip it on. And so then you're just dribbling around. And then I don't know how many turnovers he had, 7, 6 against Texas Tech. How do you balance that? And whether it's player or fan or coach, like what are your expectations then when there is more of a turnover-ish game, balls getting sticky? What do you do with Taman or not Taman, with Keyshawn in that situation if you're either, I don't know, advising or helping?
Yeah. Sticky balls are never a good thing.
You don't want sticky balls.
No.
Terrible pickle to be in there. But if I'm coaching Keyshawn in those moments, I'm probably telling him to play off 2 versus playing off one.
What does that mean?
So before you make whatever move you're about to make, shot, pass, dribble. Well, I guess you can't dribble if you're already dribbling, but if you're going towards the basket and you're kind of getting a little crazy, just jump stop. Just jump stop, take a second, because the defense doesn't know what you're doing either. So they might just run right by you and you'll have a layup. So more NBA comparisons. Brunson. B. Brunson.
Well, and
He's
that was
always up
wasn't
two.
he a Villanova guy?
Yeah, that's
Jay Wright.
Jay Wright's thing right there. Yeah, too.
Yeah.
So for me, I love that he didn't have his best game. He like you said, he had a lot of turnovers, but when we need him at the end of the game, that it was like 10 seconds left and he got the ball full sprint going downhill, his quick ass crossover, still had the ball and made the layup. That to me is impressive because you could get down in the dumps and go away from your game of I've got 7 turnovers, I'm going to give it to someone else in this moment, but he stuck true to who he was and was aggressive towards the hoop. I don't have a question for you. I just thought that was a nice observation that he stayed true to who he was.
It's kind of what we talked about. I like how you complimented your own observation. It's kind of a nice observation. Just you made the observation, then complimented the fact that it's a nice observation.
If no one else is going to, I'm going to.
But we talked about it last week where it feels like one of the attributes and I feel like basketball is different than football in enough that only a handful of guys are going to touch the ball in football where all 5, almost every possession are going to touch it in basketball. So you have to be willing to shoot, but you also have to be willing to defer. Where like in football, a guard is always deferring. Like if a guard has the ball, shit went very wrong. So like one of the things that we were talking about last week was that this team, everybody on this team rides the line between confidence and deference. So like if there's a shot,
I don't remember the word deference. You have to explain that one to me.
I was making it. It was like 4 minutes. So I'm just making this like a minute now. Same thing. Deference of deferring to someone else.
Gotcha.
Okay. So
Word of the day.
Word of the day. The more you know. Mm-hmm. So they ride between confidence and deference in that if the shot is there to be made, like Taman hitting, someone sags off him or doesn't switch right. There's a 3 that needs to be made. He's going to take it. 2 years ago, Taman would have been over deferential. So he was going to give that ball up regardless. But also you have to be deferential enough that if you're not the best, what?
Just said this fucking guy. Word of the day.
Deference?
You got 2 more times to use it before you hit the bingo.
Trying to get a blackout of any possible use of deference.
I got 3 before I hit mine.
But anyway, is that no one on this roster is afraid to take a shot, but they're also not too arrogant that they are uncomfortable with giving it up. So like in that example, like Keyshawn, in years past or in seasons past where your offense isn't as consistent across everyone, either you have to continually force feed that dude the ball, or he's going to say, I can't shoot because someone else needs to get their shots, and he's always going to give the ball up. And it feels like that's like a really hard line to walk is if you have the shot, take the shot. If you don't have the shot, get rid of the shot. Like in practice or in theory, easy. In practice, hard. And I don't know if that's a thing that, I don't know. I noticed that from my idiot brain, but I don't know if that's a thing that you've felt on teams or not.
I think this team's just really wired the right way. Like, I see what you guys are saying with this because there's a play that comes to mind for me. There's Heisey had one of the best back cuts I've seen. Didn't take the layup, dished it to Jackson, left-hand layup.
Yep.
Like, I think 1 through 15 or however many guys are on this roster, they're all wired to do one thing: kill and win. Mm-hmm. Like they clearly do not care about stats. If they did, Taman Lipsey would be pitching a fit right now because he's preseason first team All-American and he's not getting shots on this team because he's bought into his role. Mm-hmm. Like
he doesn't care.
He had 9 and 2 against Texas Tech, and I felt like he scored 100. Mm-hmm. Like that dude's got nails. This entire team is wired just to win. They don't care about glamour points, no style points. Like if you guys watch the Tomlin Hard Knocks, like we don't want to overanalyze this. We are here to win. That's it. That's the only thing.
And that's what makes a championship team. I mean, no egos. The last question I've got
Steelers
for you.
might not be the best example because I got the shit kicked out.
Sure. The last question.
They won once.
I agree. The last question I've got for you, maybe a silly question. You're an NBA guy, though. On this roster, who is an NBA guy?
Milan, Gilbert, and Jones. Right away. I think Jefferson has a chance to.
All right.
Really Jefferson needs to bump the 3-point numbers up. Just from a GM window dressing, I think he can do it. I think Gilbert's for sure. Jones is on his way. Milan did really well at the Chris Paul camp this summer. If he picks it up in March, I would expect him to go.
My thing on Milan, he needs to be more aggressive. He needs to hunt his shots, especially in the first half.
TJ, how much did TJ say in the offseason? Like six threes per game attempted or something like that?
And that was a big thing that they said, we want Milan to hunt shots. And there has been too many games this year in the first half he's been a non-factor.
Well, and I feel like when he does, like Baylor comes to mind.
Yep.
When he does, Iowa State is unstoppable.
He's still shooting with confidence, though.
Yeah.
But he needs a hunt.
I think so. Last question I have is looking forward at Kansas beyond the bigs against Dickinson. What is the ballpark game plan that you expect to see Iowa State, Kansas? And then also, if you're Bill Self and you're scouting Iowa State, what are they doing to, like, again, this is going to come out Tuesday morning. Got about 36 hours between release and actual tip off of that game. So most people will probably listen to it between those two times. What are you expecting game plan TJ to Self and Self to TJ?
I think TJ is going to try to put KJ Adams in as much uncomfortable situations offensively as possible.
Does that mean shooting as far away from the basket as possible?
Just the ball in his hands. Like, I want him with the ball as much as possible. I want the ball out of Zeke Mayo's hands as much as possible, and I want to force DeJuan Harris to shoot the ball. I don't want him passing. I want him to actually make the tough decision of, I'm going to shoot for once, because he's gone how many years at Kansas being pass first, and every time he gets into a shot first scenario, they lose. So,
do you sag your guards then, or just whoever on the scouting report is just whoever's on him play off 2 yards?
Play how you played Taman his freshman year.
Not quite that crazy, but close. Like, make him shoot a little bit, be there for somewhat of a half contest. If I'm Bill Self, I'm forcing Dickinson to get a touch every time, and he's going to go at these bigs because that's the one weak spot on this team. Is if you get both bigs in foul trouble early, that's going to cause problems. If you get 3 on Jackson, 2 on Chatfield, and you're looking at Jefferson being your 5 or JT Rock, I think that's going to cause problems.
JT Rock time.
Okay. So you're saying what to expect for Iowa State fans, what Kansas is going to do is force feed everything down low to try and just get the 2 in foul trouble.
They're either going to force everything down low, or it's going to be constant ball screens with those bigs being in the action. It's going to be a screen from either Badunga, Adams to get one of those bigs in the action to get them in foul trouble.
Okay. So just get them out.
Because they'll just send Zeke Mayo right into their chest and hope that someone calls something.
Man, gotta love it. That's going to be so freaking hot.
I look forward to Brant just stuffing Dickinson in the locker.
And then Dickinson's going to crawl himself out of a locker, and Jackson's going to go, get back in there.
That's right.
Kick him right in the teeth.
As Brant's walking away with Dickinson's mother.
Right after one of those beautiful lob
Take
dunks.
him to a nice seafood dinner.
That's right.
Never call her again.
Mother in one hand, girlfriend in the other. Goodbye, Dickinson. Goodbye, Hunter. That's all I've got for you, though, Nate.
Yeah, same. Well, we got 35 minutes worth of Iowa State basketball and actually talking about stuff that is fairly relevant, not just 2 idiots.
Oh, I want to give a shout out too. I don't know if how many students we have listening to us. A couple dingleberries here, but students are camping out already.
Hey,
yeah. So shout out to the students for camping out outside Hilton. Hopefully, TJ or the
Keep
boys
yourselves warm.
Bring them some Papa John's. Yeah, it's cold out there. I know.
Boy, not the best time if you're camping out as far as total temperature that you could be. Like, I think later in the week it's gonna be like 40. Just move the game back a couple days.
Basketball God said not today.
Cool,
we appreciate it, though, Nate. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Just the end of it. Doesn't matter what speed you play it at. It's like,
Oh my
someone
God.
check that guy's pants. Check his pants.
That's funny at any speed. Oh my God. I don't know why.
I can't believe you've never seen that before.
I've never seen that. It's an internet thing. I probably haven't seen it, but that is absolutely just perfect. I thank you for that.
That's how I felt about the interview and talking with Nate, though.
Oh man. I don't got anything else that we need to.
No, we appreciate Nate coming on. He's always just a wealth of knowledge, and when he talks about the Spanish play or whatever, I don't know that's what it's called.
Spanish screen?
Yeah, Spanish screen. We just call it screen the screener. Basically, I think that's what he's talking about. The dude just dives deep in the archives and pulls out. I'm surprised he didn't bring up Detlef Shrimp. He's got just names on names. The dude is a wealth of knowledge. So it's always good to get Nate on. So we appreciate him coming on. Again, shout out to the students who are camping out. Hope you guys are staying warm out there and get some pizza or something, whatever crazy college kids are eating these days. Anything else?
The only thing is, I have two friends that live in Santa Monica, California. So this is just not necessarily on their behalf, but just like another donation last week. It was for those that were the victims in New Orleans. That link is still available on the show notes of the previous show. We don't necessarily have to put it out there, but donate to the Red Cross because it is going directly to people that were. I mean, it's terrifying just knowing that I have.
Oh my God.
They're literally 6 blocks away from where the evacuation is. That's, I think, 6 or 7 blocks from where those fires are to where they are. It's just everything's been burned, so the fire's not moving towards them. So just it's a terrible thing to have to experience. So donate to the Red Cross if you can. Just if there's a little bit of good to do it, then try and do it. So I hope everyone's staying safe. If you are out in California, we're with you, trying to bring at least a little bit of joy if you're stuck in traffic on some fire-stricken highway. So I don't know. That's the only thing is just Red Cross for donations for this, and New Orleans Fund is still available in the show notes for the previous one.
Yeah, and that's all I've got for Jeff Woody and Jeff Goldblum. I am Grant Mahoney. Thank you to all of our loyal listeners who are still listening. And as always, remember, adopt, don't shop.